My name is Alex, and I'm 20 years old. What happened to me during my second semester at college is something I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. It started innocently enough, just another year of dorm life and late-night study sessions. But then strange things began to happen. It was a cold February night when I first noticed it. I woke up to the sound of whispers echoing through the halls, but when I opened my eyes, there was no one there. I shrugged it off as my imagination playing tricks on me, blaming the stress of exams. As the weeks went by, things got worse. Objects in my room would move on their own, books sliding off shelves, my desk lamp flickering without cause. I tried to ignore it, burying myself in my studies and avoiding being alone in my room whenever possible. One night, after a particularly grueling study session, I returned to my dorm to find my roommate, Sarah, pale and trembling. She claimed she had seen a figure standing at the foot of her bed, staring at her with empty eyes. I laughed nervously, trying to convince her it was just a nightmare. But deep down, I felt a chill run down my spine. The whispers grew louder, filling the silence of the night with incomprehensible words. I started seeing shadows darting across the walls when no one else was around. Sleep became a luxury I couldn't afford. My nights spent wide awake, afraid of what I might see next. One evening, while alone in my room, the whispers turned into clear voices. They called my name, their tone pleading and desperate. I bolted out of my room, heart pounding, seeking refuge in the crowded campus library. But even there, I couldn't escape the feeling of being watched. Desperate for answers, I researched the history of the dormitory. Rumors circulated about a student who had died under mysterious circumstances years ago. Some said he had dabbled in the occult. Others claimed he was driven mad by his studies. Whatever the truth, his spirit was said to haunt the halls, searching for something lost. I confronted the dormitory manager, hoping for reassurance or at least a logical explanation. Instead, he grew solemn and admitted that strange occurrences had been reported for decades. He offered to transfer me to another room, but by then, I knew it wouldn't help. The presence had latched onto me, feeding off my fear and growing stronger with each passing day. As the semester drew to a close, I was a shell of my former self. Dark circles marred my face, my grades plummeted, and I barely recognized the person staring back at me in the mirror. I couldn't escape the feeling that the entity was waiting for something, biding its time until it could claim me fully. On the last night, before summer break, I made a decision. I couldn't live like this anymore, constantly looking over my shoulder, haunted by unseen forces. With trembling hands, I packed my bags and left the dormitory for good, leaving behind a part of myself that would forever be scarred by what I had experienced. To this day, I carry the weight of those nights with me. I've tried to move on, to convince myself that it was all just a hallucination brought on by stress and exhaustion. But sometimes, in the dead of night, I hear whispers echoing in the darkness, and I know that some horrors can never be fully escaped. My name is Rachel, and I'm 19 years old. College was supposed to be a time of freedom and new beginnings. But for me, it turned into a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. It started innocuously enough, with strange occurrences in our shared apartment. My roommates and I would joke about misplaced keys or flickering lights, blaming it on faulty wiring or forgetfulness. But soon, the incidents took a darker turn. Late one night, I woke up to the sound of scratching coming from the walls. At first, I dismissed it as mice or rats, but the scratches grew louder, more insistent, as if something or someone was trying to communicate with me. I confided in my roommate, Lily, who scoffed at my fears. She was always the practical one, quick to dismiss anything supernatural. But even she couldn't ignore the cold spots that seemed to follow us from room to room, or the feeling of being watched when no one else was around. Things escalated when Lily went missing one night. She had gone out with friends and never returned. The police were called, but there was no sign of her anywhere. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever had been haunting us had taken her, leaving me to wonder if I was next. The apartment became unbearable, filled with an oppressive heaviness that made it hard to breathe. I started seeing shadows moving in the corners of my vision, fleeting glimpses of something dark and sinister. Sleep became impossible, my nights spent huddled in a corner, praying for dawn to break. Desperate for answers, I delved into the history of the building. Rumors circulated about a previous tenant who had practiced dark rituals in the basement, summoning forces beyond their control. Some said they had disappeared without a trace, leaving behind a legacy of terror. I reached out to a local historian who confirmed the building's dark past. They spoke of inexplicable events that had plagued residents for decades, whispers of curses and restless spirits seeking vengeance. It seemed that whatever had taken Lily was tied to the building itself, feeding off the fear and despair of its inhabitants. Armed with this knowledge, I confronted the landlord, demanding answers. He grew pale, confirming my worst fears. He admitted that previous tenants had reported similar experiences, but he had dismissed them as overactive imaginations or stress-induced hallucinations. With nowhere else to turn, I sought help from a paranormal investigator. Together, we conducted séances, hoping to communicate with whatever entity haunted the building. What we uncovered chilled me to the core, a spirit trapped between worlds, angry and vengeful, seeking retribution for past wrongs. In a final desperate attempt to appease the spirit, we performed a ritual to cleanse the apartment of its presence. For a brief moment, the air seemed lighter, the oppressive heaviness lifting, but as quickly as it came, the feeling returned, stronger than ever. Defeated and exhausted, I made the decision to leave. I packed my bags and moved back home, leaving behind the nightmare that had consumed my life. But even now, in the safety of my childhood bedroom, I can't escape the memories of that haunted apartment and the friends I lost to its malevolent grip. My name is Yvonne, and I'm 21 years old. What I experienced during my sophomore year at college still haunts me to this day. It all began when I moved into a small off-campus house with my friends, hoping for a memorable year of independence and fun. At first, everything seemed perfect. We threw parties, pulled all-nighters studying together, and enjoyed the freedom of living away from campus. But soon, strange things started happening. It started with subtle noises, a creaking floorboard here, a whisper in an empty room there. I chalked it up to an old house settling, or my imagination running wild. But as the weeks passed, the occurrences became more frequent and unsettling. One night, while studying alone in my room, I felt a chill wash over me. The temperature dropped suddenly, and I heard footsteps pacing back and forth in the hallway outside my door. I called out to my roommates, but they were all downstairs, unaware of the eerie presence in our home. Things escalated when objects began to move on their own. Books flew off shelves, doors slammed shut without explanation, and shadows darted across the walls when no one was there. My friends joked about our ghost roommate, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something sinister lurked in the shadows. One evening, as I was getting ready for bed, I caught a glimpse of a figure standing at the end of the hallway, a shadowy silhouette with glowing eyes that seemed to stare right through me. I blinked, and it was gone, leaving me trembling with fear. Desperate for answers, I researched the history of our house. I discovered that it had once belonged to a reclusive professor who had vanished under mysterious circumstances decades ago. Locals whispered of dark experiments conducted in the basement and rumors of occult rituals gone wrong. I tried to ignore the mounting terror, burying myself in schoolwork and social activities to distract myself from the growing sense of dread. But the entity wouldn't be ignored. It followed me everywhere, into my dreams, lurking in the corners of my vision, a constant reminder of its presence. One stormy night, things came to a head. The power went out, plunging the house into darkness. I lit candles, their flickering flames casting eerie shadows on the walls. As I made my way to the basement to check the fuse box, I heard a raspy whisper that sent shivers down my spine. In the dim light of the basement, I saw it a spectral figure, pale and ethereal, hovering at the bottom of the stairs. It beckoned to me with skeletal fingers, its eyes burning with an otherworldly intensity. I stumbled back, tripping over my own feet in a desperate attempt to escape. With a surge of adrenaline, I raced back upstairs, slamming the basement door shut behind me. I gathered my belongings and fled into the stormy night, leaving behind the house and its malevolent inhabitant. I never returned to that house, but the memory of those nights still haunts me. I've tried to convince myself that it was all a hallucination brought on by stress and exhaustion. But deep down, I know the truth. Some horrors are real, lurking just beyond the veil of our reality, waiting to be unleashed.